Hi, I'm Barb. Welcome to another episode of American Snippets. We are here today with our guest, my friend John Fenech. He is a Coast Guard veteran. He is our very first Coast Guard veteran we have on American Snippets. So we're busting that door wide open, and you're our inaugural Coast Guard veteran. Anybody who knows me or who follows American Snippets knows that obviously we are very heavy into veterans and what they're doing now and how they're adjusting. And we are especially proud of our veterans who come home or finish their service and find a way to continue serving their country. They don't leave their service. When they take off that uniform, they continue to serve in various different capacities. And the Patriot Guard is one of my favorite groups. They started off, they're great. They're great. They started off as something I didn't know about. Now I know about them. I love them. Our guest today is a Patriot Guard member, among many other things. John, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today and share your story.
My pleasure.
So let's start a little bit with your service as our first Coast Guard guest. Okay. Maybe take the opportunity to expand a little on what Coast Guard service entails, what you did, and why you chose the Coast Guard.
Well, I was in the Coast Guard for 5 years, from 1984 to 1989. I actually, believe it or not, took the physical for the Marine Corps. And at that time, they actually guaranteed you a specialty once you signed up. And I had signed up, and I wanted to go to Ordnance Disposal School to be in the bomb squad. So I took my physical, and he says, okay, now it's time to give you your guaranteed training. We go into the computer. He says, EOD is not available. What I have for you is infantry, nuclear weapons assembler, and dispatcher. I said, but that's not what I want.
No.
So he says, you seem confused. He says, here's my desk, here's my phone, make a phone call. So I actually called the Coast Guard recruiter from his office.
Oh my
And I told him where I was and what I was doing. He says, I really can't guarantee anything, but I can guarantee you won't be in infantry. I can guarantee you won't be a nuclear weapons assembler, and you won't be a dispatcher. If you want to take a ride, I drove over to his office in Freeport, and I signed up that day.
Wow. I love it when things like that happen. Something, one moment just changes your whole life trajectory.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened there. So what was your service about in the Coast Guard? What was a regular day for you?
My first 6 months, I was actually at the Coast Guard yard in Baltimore, which I hated. I was on a security detail, and it wasn't what I joined the Coast Guard for. So I actually found a gentleman who was on a ship out of New York who didn't want to be on the ship, and we did what's called a mutual swap. At no cost to the government, he took my spot in Baltimore, and I took his spot on the ship.
Nice.
And I went over to the Coast Guard Cut of Dallas, which was out of Governor's Island, New York, and we did law enforcement patrols, fishery patrols. I spent almost 3 years on that ship before it went into a refurbishment program. During my time on that ship, the Space Shuttle Challenger had, the explosion, and we were actually the on-scene commander for the recovery mission for that.
Oh, wow.
So that was one of the most noteworthy things, I would say. Numerous drug interdictions and stuff like that. I went to a lot of nice places. Spent a lot of time in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, unfortunately, because every time we had a drug bust, it seems like we brought them back to Guantanamo Bay. Or like with the Cuban refugee crisis, we had brought them back to Guantanamo Bay as well. So I spent a lot of time there. From there, when the ship went into refurbishment, they said, you can go anywhere you want, fill out your dream sheet. I filled out Hawaii, Florida, Alaska, and I ended up here on Long Island with my station at Hampton Bay. So I never left New York in my service in the Coast Guard, with the exception of the 6 months in Baltimore.
Right. And going to Guantanamo Bay.
And right.
But I guess you're forgetting about that part. You just want to forget about that part.
My time on the ship was the best part. In fact, it's funny that 2 years ago, a bunch of the guys I was on the ship with were all friends on Facebook, and we said, you know what? Why don't we just get together?
Awesome.
Now, once a year up in Lake George in April, we all get together at one of the guys' houses, and we just have a great time. It's story after story, stories I've forgotten. And it's just great to get together with the guys. The first year it was 4 guys. Last year was 11. Huh. Next year, I'm sure it'll be more. So it's really fun. It's one of the things I really look forward to.
Nice. So I remember my first introduction to the Patriot Guard was unfortunately not a very happy time for me. It was after my husband had been killed. And I remember my casualty assistance officer was also, I'm very surprised about this to this day. My casualty assistance officer was not educated in things like that. And he had no idea who the Patriot Guard was. So this is how it was presented to me. He said, "Hey, Barb, the Patriot Guard wants to escort you all, to the service and in between services." And I was in a world of confusion and hurt. There was a lot going on. I wasn't really processing things well. And I said, "The Patriot Guard, who's the Patriot Guard?" And he says to me, "It's a bunch of veterans in leather jackets on motorcycles." And he's like, he's a bunch of guys in leather jackets on motorcycles. They just want to escort you. I'm pretty sure they're all veterans. And I was like, what the heck? I said, okay, because I just didn't want to make an issue of it. But that instead of had I known who the Patriot Guard was and what you all stood for and what you do, I would have walked out and thanked everybody personally. But I thought you were just a bunch of guys in leather jackets on motorcycles who were being nice. And I still would have said thank you. But instead, I just waved to you all, as I went and carried on my way. And over the years, I've obviously come to know that Patriot Guard is so much more than that. I believe not everybody is necessarily a veteran in Patriot Guard.
You don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to ride a motorcycle.
Right. Yes, that's another important part. But what you all do is support any event that involves a veteran, whether it is a happy occasion or sad occasions. You guys are there. You often shield families from protesters, such like that. And one of the most remarkable things is in all weather. I have seen you guys out there in all weather, whether, for my families or when I've stood on the side for other families. And it doesn't matter what it is doing outside. You guys are riding those bikes. I don't know how you don't freeze to death when you're doing that in some of the weather. So how did you come about joining the Patriot Guard? And why don't you take a minute and explain it probably a little more eloquently than I just did?
Okay. Well, actually, this October 27th was the 12th anniversary of the Patriot Guard.
Okay.
And, since our start, it was actually 12 guys in an American Legion post in Kansas who heard about some protesters that were going to show up at a veteran's funeral. And they said, not today. And they showed up on their motorcycles and they shielded the family from the protesters. And then things, progressed where the protesters would show up with bullhorns and these gentlemen would show up with their motorcycles and just crank the engines up and make it a little loud so it would drown them out. Mm-hmm. And then word caught on about, these group of guys that were doing this at veterans' funerals. So more and more people joined. And now we're, according to our website, more than 300,000 nationwide.
Wow.
All volunteers.
Yeah.
How I got involved was when a soldier's remains would come home to JFK, which I worked for American Airlines at JFK, I was the point of contact for the Patriot Guard because I had actually built this cart to put the veteran's casket in. Okay. I just didn't feel it should have gone in a regular baggage cart. So I built this really nice cart with American flags on it. It's nicely painted. It's only used for that purpose. So I became the point of contact for when someone was coming home to make sure I get the cart ready. And I was always out there. And I met a couple of people in the Patriot Guard in doing this. And one of the gentlemen I work with at American Airlines who was in the Patriot Guard says, you need to get more involved. So I said, okay. So I signed up on the website because that's really all it entails. Signing up on the website. There's no dues. There's no meetings. You just sign up and you get mission postings that in your area on such and such a date, here's who we're standing for. And you go if you can. If you can't, there's no requirements. So my actually first mission was on September 11th of 2007. Yep, 2007. And I took my 3 children with me at the time. And I just, when you felt like you were welcomed into a family, that's really what it felt like. I mean, these people had no idea who I was. And I wasn't sure I was staying because I didn't ride a motorcycle. And I'm like, this might not really be the thing for me because I've only seen them on their motorcycles like you did.
Yeah.
But like I said, they just made me feel so welcome. The ride captain, Frank Burns, he just recently passed away, but he was like a father to me almost in the Patriot Guard. And they really are family. I consider them my family. Those people I would do anything for, and vice versa. So I signed up. We went to our first mission. From there, I was sold. It's funny, on the way home, my then 10-year-old daughter says to me, Dad, I have a question. I said, sure, what is it? She says, are you in a gang? I said, what do you mean? She says, well, all the motorcycles? I said, no. I says, I'm in a gang with people who love their country. I said,
that's a great answer, because that's really what it all is.
And so, and like I said, it's been from there moving forward. I mean, now I hold a position on the board of directors. I just love my time in the Patriot Guard. I spent my entire weekend this weekend, even though I got a little bit of a ear thing going on, out in the rain, driving around on the motorcycle. Just that's what I love doing. It's my passion right now.
Yeah. And I see the pictures you pop up there. We were talking a little earlier before we hopped on this about you taking your kids, and you have this one picture of your son where he is just beaming, on the bike with the flag in the background. And it's really great to see people involving their children in this, because you are passing down that message to them, in a time when we have people kneeling for the flag, and schools aren't allowed to say this or say that. And to see people sort of reversing that trend and bringing your children along into it and teaching them that, I think, is extra cool.
At one of the missions we went to on Saturday, the gentleman who was like emceeing the event was saying how there's an elementary school here in Riverhead that the children are now taking a knee during the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know what? After you said that, he was talking, but everything seemed like a blur, because we had just been at that school for a Patriot Guard mission on October 20th.
Wow.
A Medal of Honor. The only Medal of Honor recipient from that area is from that school. So once a year, they celebrate him, Garfield Langhorne. So we were there for Garfield Langhorne Day. Wow. Meanwhile, 2 weeks later, we learned that those kids are taking a knee during the Pledge of Allegiance. So Jack is with me. And afterwards, I said to Jack, I said, did you hear that? And his words were, Dad, that's unacceptable.
I see. That's great. That's great.
But they don't get it.
No. And we could diverge into a whole other topic, but I tend to get a little heated when we talk about things like that, because it makes me really upset and angry. So we're just going to move forward, but we'll go back to that. I think as it keeps coming up, maybe this is something that we should bring into the show and just have a conversation about. But for today, we're going to move into another area, because you don't just stop. I always say just in quotes, because just doesn't really apply to people, but it is that word. So you don't stop with the Patriot Guard. You found another way to continue giving back. And this is another thing that I love, is sometimes people think that veterans or people who are involved in military events or efforts are solely concerned with military and veterans, and feel like they don't really extend themselves to the rest of the country, or feel like maybe civilian population is a little less deserving of your time or efforts and all that. But you are someone who displays the exact opposite of that, and a good argument, or not argument, but a good assurance back to these people who feel that way, that is not the case, that people who serve obviously can be involved in veteran organizations, but you continue to look out for people throughout the country, as you did when you were serving. And you work with this operation. I call it Magic Flight, but I feel like what is it? Something Magic?
Magic Flight is our marquee event every year.
Flight. Okay.
It's the Something Magic Foundation.
Okay. The Something Magic Foundation. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that, what that is.
The Something Magic Foundation is actually comprised of current and former American Airlines employees. We've been around since 1996. And last year was our 20th anniversary of Magic Flight. Magic Flight is the marquee event that once a year we actually act. During the year, I should back up. During the year, we work with different wish granting organizations to help them fulfill wishes throughout the year. But once a year, on Magic Flight, we actually work as the wish granting organization.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Wish granting organizations then send us their children, and we cover the cost that one day a year. And this year we sent 35 families from 5 different countries down to Orlando for a 1-week vacation, as if they would have gone with Make-A-Wish or Wish with Wings or one of the other 6 organizations that we support throughout the year.
Awesome. So
Magic Flight is a way to get American Airlines employees involved in the whole process, because throughout the year we have I think we're about 18 or 19 on the board currently, but now at Magic Flight we get 500, sometimes 800 American Airlines employees involved throughout the system.
Wow.
and celebrating with these kids and just making sure that they have a great time.
That is really remarkable, especially when I know that American Airlines already does so much for other causes. So getting that out there too is a giant corporation, giant entity that is
Well,
doing this and giving back.
believe it or not, it's not really American Airlines. It's a Something Magic Foundation that does it. The
Okay.
only support we get from American Airlines is that they give us the miles to
Oh,
fly
to use. Okay. Great.
through the Miles for Kids in Need program.
Awesome. So these kids, who are they? And what is the eligibility for this program?
They have to meet the qualifications for a wish granting organization, which means they have to either have a terminal or chronic illness.
Okay. And so do you personally get to meet these families outside of that one event?
Personally, I meet all of them that travel through JFK. This year we had 4. I'm sorry, we had 5. We had 2 originating and 3 connecting. But on Magic Flight Day, we fly the families all down to Orlando together. And then I stay down in Orlando for the following day, where we host a party at Give Kids the World Village, which is where the families stay during their time in Orlando. Okay. So Something Magic Foundation then hosts a party on that following day for all the families that stay at Give Kids the World. So I get to meet, those kids and more kids that are staying there.
All of them. So how is that meeting those families and those kids? This is a happy time for them, right? In spite of whatever it is that they're going through. For these few days, it's a happy time.
They say Disney is the happiest place in the world. Believe it or not, Give Kids the World Village is the happiest place in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on and on about that place. Magic happens in that place. I really believe it does.
So their day, are there planned events for these kids and their families, or they just come and do their own thing?
Well, the village has their plan. Actually, they run through the week of every night is a different holiday. So there's Christmas, there's Easter, there's Halloween. So that's their theme each night.
That's cool.
So the kids are there for a week, and they basically go through a week full of holidays every night. Santa's there, trick-or-treating, all that fun stuff goes on during their week. So there is that for them. Plus, once they get there, they get given a packet with all the park passes and all that stuff. So they go there at whatever days that they want to. If they choose the Magic Kingdom today, then SeaWorld tomorrow, it's all up to them how they want to do it. But they're given the passes for those days that they're there.
Nice. And what is the general age range of these kids?
They have to be under 18.
Under 18. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a family or a child or an event or a moment that you've been doing this that stands out in your memory?
I am so glad you asked me this question.
I'm so glad you're glad.
And it wasn't actually from a Magic Flight, although I've met some amazing kids from Magic Flight. I'm friends with their parents on Facebook. I get updates on the kids all the time. I went up to Rochester last year, 2 years ago in June, and I met with my friend Clara, who is just an amazing little girl. So I've made some really good relationships, just like in the Patriot Guard. Yeah. Unfortunate circumstances have led me to amazing relationships with amazing people that I never would have gotten had not been for this volunteering. But I want to talk to you about a little boy named Billy. Okay. I'm not going to say his last name.
Yeah.
But we also have something else called the Wish Enhancement Program. With the Something Magic Foundation, it was actually, when I got onto the board, you have to actually say in your resume what you want to do. So I had put down that I know that once a year during Magic Flight, we make a big deal out of these families traveling. Yeah. But there has to be families traveling throughout the year that really nobody does anything about. So somebody said, well, yeah, those are called wish enhancements. I said, well, we don't do them at JFK. I'd like to do it at JFK. So I set up this program, kind of like a VIP service, I call it, where I contacted the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Metro New York, and I told them what I wanted to do. So they send me a list every month, and updated, throughout the month in case there's a last-minute wish that comes up. And they'll let me know who the family is traveling, their contact information. So what I do first is I'll contact the family the day before, let them know my name. Here's my phone number. Any questions on traveling? Because a lot of times these families, it's their first time traveling. Oh. And what we do is we set up a place to meet in front of the terminal. We expedite them through the check-in process. We waive their bag fees. We put them on the first-class upgrade list. We expedite through security up to the Admiral's Club where they have some food. They are then brought down to the gate. We make a gate announcement announcing, this is Billy and this is his wish. And we, detail all that to all the passengers. Please wish them a good flight. Everybody gives a nice round of applause. We bring him down to the plane. He meets the captain, he or she. We take some pictures and then they're off. But there was this one little boy. In fact, he's the only one that made me cry.
Uh-oh.
But believe it or not, they were tears of joy. But his name was Billy. Billy had a lot going on. He wasn't very steady on his feet. So he sat in what I would describe as an industrial style stroller.
Okay.
And he couldn't go through the x-ray machine because of, I believe it might have been a pacemaker they installed in him. So we had to go around the machine. He had to be hand searched. So it was myself and Billy's nurse. They were at the security checkpoint just past the machines. And the TSA security guard is, he's like patting him down, moving him around and whatnot. And Billy keeps looking over his left-hand shoulder. And I kept thinking, what is he looking at? And he kept looking and he kept looking. And all of a sudden, this kid who, like I said, was not very steady on his feet, he pops out of his stroller and turns around. And there was an American flag right at the checkpoint. And he stands in the straightest attention that he possibly could. And he puts his hand over his heart. And I said to his nurse, what is he doing?
Oh, my gosh.
She's like, he loves the American flag. He's doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, my gosh.
Stuff rolled out of my eyes. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. This was 5 years ago.
How old was he?
Oh, God.
Roughly. Younger?
9 or 10.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So
did you talk to him about that? Did you say?
We did.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak. He doesn't speak well. So,
okay.
But we could definitely communicate through eyes. And I told him how proud of him I was. I was giving him hugs and everything. I actually brought them back the following March for a Medal of Honor send-off.
Nice.
Because the Patriot Guard is there. All the flags are there. I thought this could be a great thing for Billy. Yeah. And he had a good old time. In fact, there's some pictures on my Facebook of that too.
Nice.
He is the one kid that really sticks out of my mind, especially because of my tie with the veterans as well. I mean, he just...
Yeah, that's really cool.
It was over the top for me. Well, like I said, the only one to make me cry
is him.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because there should be that one moment, that one event or person that really sticks with you. And that's something that sometimes that can drive you forward to keep doing it, and maybe on those days where it's a little harder to get up or get out and you think of that one person and you go do it. So let me ask you then, there are a lot of people out there hanging out, doing our own thing and always say like, I don't have the time. I would do this. I would volunteer for that. I would give efforts for this, but I don't have the time or I can't afford to, or I'm too busy, or there's just nothing out there that suits me. Or, what would you say to those people to encourage them to take that time to find that outlet for them to give back in their own community?
You have to find what's important to you. This is important to me. I believe it or not, I was not into this whole volunteer thing, so I'm probably the best argument for this.
Yeah, because you volunteer at everything. That's how I met you.
Yeah. 11 years ago, I had a heart attack.
Oh my.
And I sat up that night in my bed and I said to myself, what have I accomplished besides going to work? I'm working 2 jobs. I'm not doing anything for anybody except myself and providing for my family. But is that really enough? So I said, I got to find a way to give back. And that's when I found out about Snowball Express, because my heart attack was in October. Snowball was in December. So somebody at work says, why don't you check out this whole Snowball Express thing? This is the first year of it. I'm like, okay. And you may have been there that year, but I don't really remember much of the first year because it was like a blur.
Yeah.
But then year after year, I'm watching your 4 boys grow up, Maria Wiener's girls. I mean, we've become all close because I've watched your kids grow up.
Yeah.
And, Snowball Express then turned into, hey, somebody says, you should check out this Magic Flight thing in September next year. I'm like, okay. And here we are. So you got to find what makes you happy.
Yeah. And what is that? So you said you started to say, how you had that moment and you thought about what you had been doing with your life or not doing with your life. And I'm asking you this, I'm going into a little deeper because this is a lot of the people who we reach. Sometimes we talk to at our events or, we reach out and work with, we do outreach to people who are looking for that something to help them find that fulfillment in their life that they're missing. So, giving back and in that outlet. I mean, did you sort of stumbled into Snowball Express and then the rest of it, but what has that done for you in terms of looking back at that guy 11 years ago? What would you
I am a different person 11 years ago.
Yeah. So it's worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Some days I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I bet.
But that's okay.
And that's taking your children and introducing them to that too. Do you feel like your children are going to become these people that also look for ways to give back on their own once they do out and about?
My kids have been coming to give Kids the World with me for that party on the following day after Magic Flight, 7 years now. It's a family event for us. In fact, this year was the first year we didn't go as a family, and I was devastated. And it was because of the whole thing with the hurricane down in Florida. Right. The flights were so full, we actually had to we normally fly standby to get down there with the families, but they actually had to buy me a ticket so I can be sure to get down there.
Right.
And the planes were so oversold, I couldn't get my family down there, couldn't get the hotels down there. So this is the first year we didn't do it together, and it was not fun. No. It's fun to be doing it with my family.
Nice.
And they enjoy doing it.
Yeah, that's good. That you can see that in the pictures. Yeah.
He loses his mind.
That's cool, though. That's cool.
We do this together. I mean, this is a family thing.
Nice.
My girls have, been to Patriot Guard missions. They've stood out there. I got a picture of my girls standing on a mound of snow 2 feet high at a Patriot Guard mission in Calverton. I mean, it's what we do.
Awesome. So I'll wrap it up then and ask you to tell people if they want to find out more about Something Magic, where can they go and how can they get involved on their own?
They can go to our website, which is Something Magic. It's magic with 2 A's, somethingmagic.org.
Okay.
You really can't get involved. Well, yeah, actually you can get involved if you golf. We have our 3rd annual golf outing this coming Monday, actually, on the 13th in Dallas, Texas, at a Trophy Club golf course. You can get involved as a sponsor. You get involved as a golfer.
Okay.
If you want to help us with money always helps. There's a donate page on our Something Magic page.
Okay.
But as far as volunteering, that's mostly American Airlines.
Strictly American Airlines, right. So, but even if they want to share the stories and encourage other people to maybe, like you said, to become a sponsor, to donate.
Yep.
Every little bit helps. Or maybe if they know a family who they feel is eligible for that, they can, can the family apply through that website?
The family actually has to go to a wish granting organization.
Oh, to a wish granting. Okay.
Right. And then in June or July, we solicit those wish granting organizations, say, do you have any families that are looking to travel to Orlando for the attractions at Orlando the second week of September? Okay. And they give us those families, and then we take it from there.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to do this.